Okay, we're good.
Hey, welcome everybody. I know we're letting everybody in from a lot, but welcome again to AOPA's Flight School Connector. We appreciate you all being here again. Today's topic is going to be a little introduction to AOPA's Flight Training Advantage. And so, of course, I'm Chris Moser. We've got Elizabeth Tennyson, our Executive Director of You Can Fly on the call, and our special guest today, Pablo Morelia, Senior Director of Flight Training Technology. So we will get to that just shortly. And of course, behind the scenes, only revealed in the face with 2 million subs, as we say on Don't Get Rusty, is Stephen Crozer helping us out. So, one quick intro. We just want to thank Sporty's Pilot Shop again for sponsoring this program. And you can see the details right there. They've got their special dealer program. So if you're interested in stocking your pilot shop and getting some good deals, they've got some nice things right there: wholesale pricing, same day shipping, even discounts. So check it out at sporties.com/dealer. All right. So today what we wanted to do is we are going to talk about AOPA's Flight Training Advantage. Some of you may have gotten some emails from us. I know that we've been sending those out sort of in stages because we've launched this recently, and we wanted to give you kind of an overview of just what it does. So we're going to do a quick overview of the adaptive approach to training. It's a training curriculum. We thought that it might be useful to you. But more importantly, we're going to do something that we don't normally do on a demo, which Pablo, who's been the lead on making all of this happen behind the scenes, all the tech happen. We're going to go through some owner insights and really just show you what it might be able to do for you on the side of what you can get from it on the transparent and training process. And we really do think that it provides a good transparent training process. Before I turn it over to Pablo, however, one thing I wanted to mention was that I think Kelly is on the call, Kelly Davis. If anyone is able or willing to stick around for a few minutes, Kelly, are you there?
I don't think she's been able to join us yet.
Okay, hasn't joined yet, but we're hoping for a few minutes. We are trying to run some focus groups, and so if anybody's willing to answer some questions or just give her some feedback, if you have the time or ability, we will do that at the end. Otherwise, we potentially will ask for folks that might be willing to set up other meetings. So we'll let Kelly discuss that more at the end of the presentation today. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Stephen, let's roll the poll.
Right,
and in fact, what I will do is Pablo, I'm going to switch it over to you because the poll will come up. Even I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you take over and get ready for yours.
All right.
So the question today was just an idea of who we have in the audience today. Are you doing training 61, part 141, part 61, and 141? And just let us know so we can get an idea. And let's see what we get. I'm looking for the results. I know that they. Oh, it's a chat thing. I was always like, where is it? It's in the chat. That's where we can see. I'm like, why am I not seeing the results? So let's see what folks are saying here. Okay, we got lots of part 61 and then part 61 and 141. So that's awesome. I'll give you just a few, just a touch longer to see if anybody else wants to respond to that. Give us an idea of what you train part 61, 141, or both. All right, I think that's what we'll go with that. So we've got about a little over half with both programs, 141 and 61. Other 42% with 61, and so it looks like everybody's doing 61 and either all together or not. So Pablo Morelia, our Senior Director of Flight Training Technology, I want to turn it over to you and dazzle us with the new program that we call AOPA Flight Training Advantage.
Oh gosh, that was. If anyone knows me, it's very hard to sit there and not say anything for this long. Oh, thank you. 4 minutes of quiet is horrible. Okay, so I'm going to go through this, and just so everyone knows, this is going to be a really slimmed down version of what I usually do. So I can do at least an hour on just the iPad, and you're going to get about 8 to 10 minutes. So enjoy. And if I'm talking fast, I'll try to remind myself to slow down. But a few of the highlights. So what you're looking at right now is actually my iPad. This is the production app. This is obviously test data, so everything you're going to see, take the content with a grain of salt. If the lesson looks stupid or if grades look dumb, it's because it's a testing unit. However, this is all live. So the CFIs get iPad apps, and so iPad only. We'll review that stuff later. And the first thing you see as an instructor when you sign into the app will be this dashboard. You're going to see one of two dashboards because we've integrated with a third-party scheduler, two of them, either Hold Short or Flight Circle. That is what we have currently. We don't have a plan per se to create more, but obviously if we need to, we will integrate with others. But this one right here is the Flight Circle integration. So if I'm not integrated, you would see something very similar, but just a little less information. And we did the integration so that it's just basically like a one-stop information shop. You still have to go to the scheduler to create your appointments, reservations, whatever it is. But from here, you're going to see everything, your squawks, your students, all that stuff. Okay, so let's start with, if you have a school and you've got multiple instructors, if you put them all into the system, any instructor can teach any student. We do assign one primary instructor to every student. So when you sign in, you'll see your students. But let's say that you need to sub for somebody. You could click down here at the bottom for my students. You would see just your students. As you see here, I have one. However, my school has many. So I'm going to take, I don't know who's student, but if I click this
let me reach
here,
out to Craig and late for my meeting here. So let me reach out to Craig, and then I'll also reach out to Mitch and see what's going on with the insurance requirement. And I'll get you guys an update by the end of the day.
So we're picking up someone's other phone call. Understandable. We're all in that same boat of multitasking. I'm just going to encourage everybody to go ahead and mute themselves unless they want to speak, and feel free to raise your hand if you want to speak or drop a question or comment in the chat.
Cool. Okay, so I've clicked just so we see it here. So I see my student, right? And so if I want to take over for someone today because they can't make it another instructor, I would hit this button at the top, and then I can see all the students within the school. Okay, come on, it's a little slow. There it is. Ooh, it's a slow response. Okay, so there's the students, and this is everybody. Now I can take whoever I'd like. Let's say that Mary's student is who I'm taking today. So if I touch her name here, I'll hit that. Ooh, sorry about the slow response. That is slow. Okay. So you're going to get all the information up front. You got logbook times. I think probably the most important part here is that with this iPad, we would assume, just like the screen says, pre-flight. This is your pre-flight time. So you're going to see what the next lesson's activities are. And you're going to see the homework that was assigned as well. And because, like Chris said, this is adaptive, all of these lessons are created when you finalize the lesson. So when we finish grading this in the cockpit, at the end, we'll enter our logbook and it'll create the lesson from there based on all of the history of the student, all the grades, all of the activities, when you did them, when you didn't do them, if you skipped something, if you didn't skip something. So like I said, I'll try to go, I'm slowing down here. I'll go faster. So we've reviewed it. We can see here real quick, you can see on the prep, these X's, that just signifies that the student has not accomplished any of these. If a student within their portal clicks on one of these things to do it, it'll automatically go to green check mark. So that's kind of a transparency thing, and that's the one word we use a lot. So we've done a pre-flight. We're going to go into the cockpit. We're going to hit the Go Fly button. These are all the same activities because this is the lesson. Like any typical app, you can move things around. We're not going to start with landings. That would be ridiculous. So we'll put these in kind of the order we want to do them in the cockpit. From there, you'll see that everything has a parameter, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. I think 6 is the most we have. And from there, you just grade. And I'm literally going to just pick some parameters. At the bottom, you'll see a grade. Give the student a 3. Do these or 2s. And I hate making these up, but that's why you'll see some of the lessons look kind of wonky because I just kind of go through it. Trim control. Well, okay. So I graded a couple, and you're always in control as an instructor. And so you can choose to do this lesson as it is. You can choose to skip things and not grade them. And we say skip them if you don't grade it. And so you can see I have not graded 1, 2, 3, these 4 activities here. Additionally, I can add things too because you're completely in control here. So if you want to add something at any time, let's say that they're not ready to do one of these things, go around rejected landing, but you want them to do something else, you would just hit this button. You get a list of everything in the system if it ever shows up. That is slow. Okay, and then you'll see it, and then you can click, and you get everything by category, which obviously, there it is, makes it easy. This is a terrible response, guys, I'm sorry. And you can see everything, and then you just select it. So let's say we're gonna do some collision avoidance. I've just selected collision avoidance. Go to the bottom, save it, and it always adds it to the bottom of your list, and there it is, okay? So even if you add it, you don't have to do it. That's fine. But all of the things you do in here with grades, skips, additions, all gets taken into consideration. We can go into common errors.
Hey,
Yes.
Pablo, can you score one more thing for us? Because
Sure.
I'd love for people to see that they're also in control of the grading, that there's a recommendation based on
Yeah.
what the scores are, but they have control.
Sure, you betcha. All right, so we're going to go to, let's see, traffic pattern. You'll see there's 2 parameters here. And so obviously you're basing this on the cumulative effort here. So you've done a couple of patterns. They were fairly good, a plus minus 20, and altitude was, we'll do that. So you'll see at the bottom. Okay, you'll see a grade. Come on, it's so slow, I'm sorry. Okay, so I selected, there it is. You'll see these here. So these are just recommendations as to based on your parameters. And you'll notice here with 2 parameters, 1 parameter is pretty simple. But when you get to the 4, 5, or 6 parameters, and then you saw some yeses and nos, those things can kind of make it, especially in the cockpit, a little harder to kind of visualize what the final score would be. So we've created this where it just takes the scores and shows you based on your scoring what the actual grade should be. Again, cockpit, right? Things are going on and you're kind of moving around all the time. We wanted to make it easier. So in this case, you can give the student anything you'd like. You can actually give the student a 1 here if you'd like. Absolutely within your realm of responsibility here. But as you can see, that wouldn't probably be appropriate for what you have graded the student. So a 3 or a 4 would be appropriate here. In this case, let's do a 4. And there you go, right? So you don't have to give them those grades, but maybe you should. So, and there's that. And you can always see when something's graded, you'll see the grade on the left. If it's not graded, the number disappears and it's just these 2. So that's how you know it's graded. It's the solid yellow. So we'll go back to a 4 there. All right. When we finish the lesson, and we are offline, by the way, we did build that in. As soon as you hit that go fly button, it goes offline completely. So everything you do, you don't need a connection. All right, so we're going to hit done flying. Post brief, you're sitting, it could be anywhere at this point, you're still offline, but you're going to fill all this stuff in. And after you finish, when you hit finalize is when the magic sauce takes place. This is fantastic. It's like the McDonald's sauce, but better. So, ooh, not 102. So I am going to do one.
And Pablo, hey, while you're filling that in,
yeah.
I'll just mention, so the kind of the deal with all this, just big picture while Pablo's filling in the logbook there, is that, you know, this is built on the typical building block approach, just like you would see in a standard traditional syllabus. But the difference, of course, being that as a student is working, if they're doing well in one particular area, maybe like landings, they get to move on to more advanced things sooner than they might on a traditional syllabus, whereas things they might be having difficulty with, let's say it was radio communications, that comes back up for review. And so as Pablo's about to do, he's filling in some notes and putting in the logbook scores, and then that way, when he does it, I will let him take over. Tell us about the magic, Pablo.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's absolutely right. So this is all based on those things. I mean, we want to keep students moving forward, right? And so part of the logic that I could get into for a whole other hour, high level is, you know, we don't constantly repeat things until we get them. We don't pound things in there. We move forward when we need to. We review when we have to, that kind of stuff. So now you'll see in the activities and scores, if at any time you were unable to either add what you wanted to another activity in the cockpit, or maybe you didn't grade something, maybe the iPad fell out of your hand, you could still do it on the ground. You could add the activity here. So let's say we wanted to add the collision avoidance here. And you could also grade it here. So let's say we actually did go around and rejected landings. We would just touch that name, and then we would get it here. And then you would add the score here. In this case, you'll see that these 4 no scores, we're just telling you that they were not scored. Everything that's not scored needs a reason. So if I were to try to finalize this lesson, it would tell me, sorry, you can't, and I'll show you that. I hit the finalize button. So there you go. So now, easy enough, and especially early on, let's say that you run out of time, student gets sick, whatever, you might have many of these. You don't have to fill them all in. So in this case, we ran out of time. And then I hit this big blue button. You'll see it fills in all of these reds. My internet connection is usually pretty fast, so I apologize for it's the internet that's so slow here. Okay, so there you go. So you can add ground here if you'd like. You don't have to, but now we're going to finalize, and you're going to see the clock here happen, and now the magic sauce, right? We're putting our big bag together, and there it is. So the next lesson has been created. You'll see that there's a couple of badges or labels here for each activity, and these I can go into later, but quickly, something like sim. There are certain activities within our system that we kind of say, maybe good idea, recommended, show in a sim first. You don't have to, but you're only going to see that once, and it's only the first time that that one individual activity is assigned. From there on, it's up to the instructor. There's your homework. There's one homework per activity that's been assigned for the lesson. There's one homework per activity. So you're never going to see more than there's 6 here. You're only going to see 6 homework. And that's it. My gosh, I've never gone that fast into it. I guess, Chris, we do questions now or later?
I guess we can see if anybody has any questions, but just so you know, what we really wanted to spend time with this group on was showing you the owner insights into this. So I know Pablo's going to pull up a screen showing the owner portal, and just to show you that this is the iPad app that's for the CFI to use in the cockpit. Then there's 2 other portals that are accessed through a typical web browser. So you've got your student portal where the student would log in, see their homework, see their progress, see all that. But you'll be able to see very similar things through the owner portal if you were to use this. And that's what we wanted to show you, is just take that time, since we have this obviously focused group of owners here.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope everyone can see this. This is the owner's portal. This is the same school of Wilbur and Orville that you saw earlier. Any resemblance to reality? Unintentional. These are all fictional characters, and you can see our dashboard here quickly at the top. So we tried to just kind of point out some of the things that were maybe most important, I guess you could say. I don't know what a better term would be, but just some of the highlights, let's call it, of your school. Chris? Uh-oh, you're muted, Chris. What happened? I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Mine's delayed too. Do the flight times, landings, et cetera, integrate with any logbooks apps like My Flight Book?
No, we don't integrate with any logbooks right now. Part of our plan was to get out the product, and then some of the more, I guess you could call it, intricate integrations, because there's so many we could do. We were going to save for later once we got more feedback and what features are requested, because there were so many things you could build that maybe somebody will never use. In this case, that was one of those. We know people will use it, but it's just to what degree, right? So we have that. That's actually the second time someone's asked, so it hasn't been something that's been asked a lot, but it's definitely on my list of to-dos.
So Felipe had a comment too. He says he pays a lot of money for this with Flight Schedule Pro. So at this time, this is all free to the school. It is paid, and the instructors. It is paid for by the student. Our introductory pricing rate is $19.99 a month. And we require the students to be AOPA members, but no cost at all to the school or to the instructors to use this and to get their students signed up on it. And one thing I would point out, so there are other things out there, like what Flight Schedule Pro offers. What they're offering is really you can upload a syllabus and the materials that go with that. What's different about this that you should know is that whole piece of magic sauce. So all of the lessons being created automatically, and that is a huge time saver for your CFIs. It also makes it really easy to switch a student among CFIs. So if you have multiple CFIs teaching, or if you have somebody out one day, you don't want to cancel the lesson. All that data is right there at their fingertips about how the student has done, and the CFI doesn't have to try and come up with an appropriate lesson for a student that they haven't taught before. It's already in the system. The system knows where the student is and how they're doing, and so it really, really simplifies that process for you and saves just a huge amount of time for the student, and prevents the question that I know a lot of students cringe when they hear, and I certainly did, when you walk into your flight school and your instructor looks at you and says, "What do you want to do today?" I don't know. You tell me what I need to do today.
Yeah. So, I would like to add that for students also, there's a 3-month introductory offer as well, free. So that's a very good price as well.
Sure. I know Felipe's got his hand up. He's got a question. Felipe, go ahead.
Hi guys. Yeah, just a quick question. As far as the software goes, so is it also a scheduler, and like you can see also aircraft maintenance and all that stuff, or like is that the vision of where this wants to be? Like, is this going to be like a kind of like a competitor for Flight Schedule Pro or stuff like that, or Flight Circle and so on?
There's a couple questions there, right? So we are not a scheduler. We were originally going to build a scheduler. We didn't. We're not intending to compete with them. Our integration is solely a look into those 2 schedulers that we integrate with. So Hold Short and Flight Circle, which means you still go there, and you probably saw it really quick. There's a big yellow thing that says make your next appointment, next flight. So when you hit that, it'll take you to the scheduler. Or at the bottom, you saw a fourth button on the bottom right that says scheduler. You just go there to create your schedule, to create your appointment, whatever it is. And you still go there for squawks and maintenance. But what happens is we bring into our system your schedule so you can see when it is. We bring into the squawks. We bring in all that kind of information into the system so that you can see it. And then at the end, when you need to, you can go to the scheduler.
But you can do
And
it.
we don't intend on building a schedule either, I don't think.
You can do it
Okay.
right from the system. So if you see that menu there to the left, where it says scheduler, that's, it's very simple. You don't actually have to leave this and go to another window or something like that. You just click on it. And if you're logged in, you'll get that. It'll pop right up for you.
Another, I know it's does it also have like the lessons, like for example, already like we use Glime in our school. Does it have all the presets already for all the syllabus for Glimes and stuff like that, or is that only for certain programs, or do we have to input that information in?
You can't.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. So
Yeah,
ahead,
are you
Chris.
saying, Felipe, that maybe, are you talking about, does it have like, you put the Glime syllabus or Jeppesen syllabus into it? Actually, this is, it takes the place of a syllabus, and basically just the sort of the structure behind it was that we took all the tasks that are in the ACS plus a few extra ones, because there's stuff like straight and level turns, that kind of stuff. So it's got the building block approach behind it, and I know Pablo, I think, is going to go to the activities right now. Do we have one that shows them all on there, Pablo? I don't know.
All the activities?
Yeah. I don't know if it's in the owner's portal that they see that necessarily, but there we go. There's the activity index. So you can see we categorize them by topic. And so the program does it in a logical flow. So it starts out with like the first lesson, straight and level turns, climbs, descents, taxiing, the basic stuff. And then as the students get graded and progress, it goes on to the next logical thing that you would typically see like in those types of syllabi. But the difference here is that there's no set syllabus. This thing generates the next lesson based on the student's performance. So do understand that there's an educational flow to it. There's a building block, but it's not like it's different from the traditional syllabus in the sense that you've seen them before, where it's like, this is lesson 1, this is lesson 2.
Right. We don't have preset lessons other than the first one. But the other thing you can do, though, and I was talking to a school yesterday with their third-party ground, we'll call it, is you can add here. So you can actually add your own Glime links into here if you require your students to maybe have Glime, or maybe you've got, I don't know if they do school or whatever. But you can actually add, so in steep turns, if there's something in Glime that you like, you could actually add it in here so that it is assigned automatically by our system. And you can actually select where. So this is the exact order in which anytime steep turns is assigned. So the first time it's assigned, you get this, the second time, third time, fourth time, and so on. And so if you'd like, the first one, you could put it in here and give it a priority, and it would be assigned first or second or third or fourth and so on. So you can put any third-party tool from your own to an actual vendor and put it within the system within each activity.
And you're talking about, Pablo, basically ground type resources there. Like
Right,
it could be a
right.
video or a text or something like that, right?
Yep. Yep.
All right, Pablo, why don't you show us some of these insights
Cool.
on the owner screen here?
So this is the owner's portal. Again, this is me as a test school, but this is the exact version that you would see. This is all live. And just high level, you can see the top 4 things, right? So this month and lifetime, all of these things can be changed, removed, or made on certain timelines by hitting the configure stats up here. And you can see monthly, quarterly, annually, or custom date range, and then you can select which one. Now this is all pretty high level, but you notice that right here there's an export, and you're allowed to export in 3 different formats. The CSV one actually will download, and it's not as easy as it looks in the sense of how stupid it is. It's not, we're not just downloading these 4 numbers or these 8 numbers. That would be ridiculous. The CSV actually downloads per student and per instructor, and it gives you their hours and everything. So that CSV file actually allows you to create your own reports if you'd like. And that's one of the features that we did not create was reports. And that's solely because we want people to tell us which ones are most important to them after they've played with it, so that then we can create them. Because, how do you come up with which reports? We could have built 50 of them and no one uses any of the 50, right? So that CSV is pretty nice. You can see the scheduler here. I haven't signed into it, and you'll get this once after you've set up your scheduler. And so in this case, if I had a flight schedule school sign on, I'd put it here. And this is where all the fleet data and scheduling would come in. You can see this METAR down here that is set within your school information. Basic stuff, not meant to replace anything else, but it's just so you could see a high level view of it. You'll see here students. So you can see all of your students in your school, what instructor is their primary instructor, how many hours they have, and how far along they are in their course. And so their certificate, they could be either private sport or rec, and that's selected once and only once when you set up the student. If you want to see more information on a student, let's click on this one. You can see here, the student will set up their own picture if they want it, but you can see all the basic information. This student is done, and you can see their flight time. We have this more or less here because some of these things, well, all of these things here in the more are things that are just less commonly used. So we didn't want to kind of muddy it up a little bit. And you can see here, I'm 100% done. Then ground, we don't take the ground into consideration because those are things, even though they can be done outside the system. So it's just basically all of the activities. And so you can see where you're at in both. We break things up into 2 stages. If you want to see actual stuff, and the way I always look at it is this is the progress, this is what has been done. In this case, even though it's 100%, we go in here and we could see what date we did something and what grade the person got on that. Okay, so you could see everything for every category. If you want to see basically what's left, in this case, like I said, they are done, but you can see what's left. You would go here to course requirements tab, and here you could see again the percentages, right? So ground wasn't completely done, so these 2 things weren't done, but you could see 22 or 22 aircraft control and so on and so forth. And I'm going to go to something else because I hate this one and I shouldn't have clicked on it, so I apologize. Let's click on somebody who's not 100% done. Let's click on Mary. That's the one that we tested with. So here you go. So you can see Mary's got a long way to go. Okay, this is much better. Aircraft control is only going to show you what you've done. So this is only the 56% that has been graded and done. Okay, this is you can see it's a small list. So the things that aren't graded aren't in there yet. If you want to see what's left, and the student will as well, you would click course requirements, and then you'll see 7 of 22 aircraft control, nice high level view. The greens are the ones that are proficient. So they're kind of, you know, they've been done. So we're still introducing new things, and you can see this is what's left to introduce, all of the blue stuff here. And you can see that for everything. And then you could also see a high level view of all the requirements that are taking place right now. So 8 of 40 hours. When each of these is completed, this will turn green. So we just made it really easy so everybody could see up front. I will fly through this here. Oh,
So
yeah.
hang on just a sec, because Phil has a question, and
Yes.
I think you guys, maybe Chris particularly, well qualified to answer this. Is all this usable by or useful to DPEs for verification of training completed?
So that's a great question, Phil. And one of the things I would say is that in designing the content in here, I did make sure that all the required regs, whether it was for solo cross country, and the check ride, are all there for ground and the flight stuff. So you could use it for that purpose. The one thing, Pablo, I'd have to ask you, because I know that we had chatted about it, but is there we don't have a report yet, as I recall, right, that would come out and show like that. But
No.
that's something we're looking at potentially in the future. But yes, you could at least know that the record, and you could see the record in there. So the question would be, would the DPE be willing to look at that? Or that's something definitely for us to mark down, as to make a report that we could show the DPE. So I'm like, here is the full log for that.
So we have a DPE on the You Can Fly team who works with us, and he was really excited about this because he has had the miserable duty to turn away students who show up with a 10th less flight time than they need, or a 10th, a 10th of an hour that they didn't do on cross country, something like that. So the students made the appointment, waited for it, paid the fee, and then the exam cannot take place because they haven't met the requirements. So our staff DPE was really excited about this and being able to see this information.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so you can see in the student, we're still here in Mary's student. And you can see progress, right? I showed you that. I showed you course requirements, got your lesson history. So as an owner, remember this is all owner stuff. You can see how the student has been going, what their lessons look like. There will be little labels next to these. So if you want to see maybe how many times the instructor is deviating from the actual created lessons, you would see things like instructor added. Okay, and that just means that the instructor added this to the lesson. But you can also see things that were skipped and for the reason, right? So I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can, and it's all right here. So really it's a logging of the entire lesson. And so maybe you've got certain ways that you want lessons to be done. You could see, how things are being done, if they're being done that way at all.
Hey, Pablo,
Yes.
if an owner was looking for a CFI, would they get any notification that would show that the instructor's been repeating something over and over again? Would there be any notification of that?
So there are no notifications per se on that. It felt like, to be quite honest with you, when I was looking at the requirements here, it felt, there's that kind of line of how far do you want to get into people's business as an owner, right? You have the right to do whatever you'd like, and we wanted to give you as much info as we could, but notifications with deviations and how many times people do stuff, what is that right number?
Well, isn't there one though that they get to
too much?
There's a certain point where it needs review comes up. That's what I'm getting at.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. So
yeah.
why don't you explain that? That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So these labels that I've been showing you here and there, right? Review, new. Here's a new. There's a couple labels that come up. There's two that'll come up later on. There's one specific one that I think stands out because it's big and it's red and it's got white bold letters that says needs review. And so that is a signal to both the instructor and the student, well, and the owner in this case, but there won't be a notification of it. But that is notifying the instructor that an activity needs to have action. And that action usually, but not all the time, because there are a couple of reasons for it, usually means that something is not being, it has not come to fruition. The student is not completing this and they're having difficulty with it. On the back end, again, without getting into too much, we have something called a cognitive load. And when that cognitive load is reached, that's when you get this message. And so let's say you've got something like a steep turn and you've done it 8 times and the student has still not been graded to a proficient level. The next time it's assigned, there'll be a big red label next to it that says needs review. And so that should notify the instructor that just look at it, right? There's a problem with this activity. And so, we can't point to the exact problem because it's still up to the instructor, right? But if they go into that, like this progress, right, they could actually click on, what was it, steep turns I said? So you could go to steep turns and actually that's a bad one. How many? All right, I don't have one with a lot, but I've seen in actual schools where the student has done some 8 times and it's been a 2, a 3, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and so on. And so they've never been proficient at this thing. And so you would go into there if you got that label and say, well, there you go. I've done it 8 times and they're just not getting it, right? So that's where you would take some kind of action. Maybe another instructor attempts it or you Google how to teach a steep turn. I don't know.
You don't have to Google it, Pablo, because we have that information in here.
We do, which takes us to, well, let's go to CFIs real quick. I'll show you that activity index in a second. So the CFIs, you can do the same thing with your CFIs, and I'll show you. So in this case, who have been using Wilbur? Wilbur is our guy we've been using. You get a nice high-level view of your instructors, all of their students here and how many hours they have for the month. Again, numbers, whatever it is for your school. But you can see also here that we show you the total CFI hours and flight hours. And that's just meant to be a kind of a comparison between the two. So I know we have some schools that say it has to be a 2-to-1 ground to air. If that's not being met, you could see it right there, right? Because if the lines are together, then it's not. So you can really see your patterns and see maybe how many things are being taught or how many hours, that kind of stuff, just kind of high level stuff that allows you to dig further into what you need to. Prep materials, that's the homework that I showed you earlier where you can prioritize where you want it, like Climb or Sporties or whatever it is. You can actually put those links in there yourself. In this case, this owner, Pablo, has not put anything in here, but they would all be listed here so you don't have to search for it. But you can also see all of this stuff for anything in any category, okay? Now I showed you steep turns, just the prep for steep turns, so you could look for it here. It's a little more difficult when you see it all, but in this activity index, you can see it. But from here, the prep materials is really easy. You just hit this button and you get this box. At the end, you select what category, what activity, and you could, really easy. The only thing is the priority, and you can't really screw anything up other than putting it in the wrong place. But if that happens, let us know, and we can get you back on track. But the priority, 1 through 15, simple.
So Pablo, if I'm an instructor and I'm teaching a lesson and I want a different item than you have listed as number 1 in your priority, can I add that to my students' homework assignment or change it out?
Right. So when the lesson's created and you see that both the activities for the lesson and the homework, you can add extra homework. Now you can't replace, but you can add. So if you see something, so a quick caveat is when something is assigned, if the student never clicks on it and that red X remains, the next prep work will never be assigned. Okay, so if you see the same thing being assigned constantly, it's because it's never being done. Just have them click on it. And then the next one will be assigned. But yes, that's correct. So at the end, when it's created and you look at it and go, I don't want this AFH thing. It's ridiculous. We need something a little more meaty. They just hit the button that says assign new prep. You sign it, boom, and you're off and running. It's in the student's portal. All right, aircraft control. So this is what I showed you earlier from the iPad, but we'll go to rectangular course. And you can see here, got your overview, the what, the why, the completion standards. The student can also see this. And this is good because they can see how they're going to be graded and to what level. Checklist, it's not a checklist as we pilots know it. It's a checklist as to how to prepare for this certain activity. Notes to pilot, that one's pretty obvious. It's a note to the pilot. And they could read upon each of the things within the checklist for more information. Common errors. I didn't go over it, but it's something that you probably saw in the grading iPad. You saw there's a common error list for every activity. And that's a way to take notes in the iPad. And so you don't have to have a separate notepad. You don't have to have, a stylus. You're not going to be, inputting all this stuff. You just select what that common error was for the activity. At the end, in the post brief, you'd add your notes to that common error. When the student sees their record, hopefully they're reviewing that last lesson, they can see the common error, see the instructor's notes, and then come here and they can see more information on that error so that they can prepare for the next time they do it. Teaching tips, again, I think we're going to give ourselves credit on this. I think we named these tabs pretty well. These are teaching tips. They are meant for the instructor. Of course, the student can see them as well. But the teaching tips, Chris, maybe you want to get into a little more detail on how we got these teaching tips.
So the big thing that we did here was for each of we broke all the maneuvers down to a checklist, and so it's almost like sort of the steps in the basic to maneuver. These are based off of the airplane flying handbook or just general teaching, typically how these are done. We put together a team. It was both, it was me writing some of them. We had some internal CFIs, and we also hired some CFIs from the outside. So we tried to get a lot of experience and put tips in here that we thought would be useful for helping with that. And the same with the common errors. We typically have tips on, if you're seeing this common error, here's an idea of how to correct that. So we wanted to try to create a resource for especially newer CFIs, but even for more experienced ones to increase their bag of tricks. And the one thing I'll say is if you do start using our program and you have an idea for a good teaching tip, please let us know because we can put that in here and we would love to do that. We want to build a great resource for that.
But we'll only put it in if it's good. So, okay. Alternate procedures is another kind of, an extra step towards that. But here's the prep. And this is when you add something, it would be displayed here. So if you added some rectangular core stuff, it would be displayed here in the order that you put it. And then really the easiest way, and if anyone's going to use this and they want to know, just contact us. You're not expected to remember all this, or go to pic.aopa.org/AFTA. And you can just take your cue from the priority. So if you want it to be first, you put a 1 on it, right? And then it would be before this, but you can see if you wanted something to be third after the ACS, you would make it a 5, right? So it's basically, that's the order. We left room in between so you could add your own in between. Simple enough. And we can cover that later. Regulatory, real simple. No student, and I think you can see here, we've built it, said no student at any time really has to wonder where they're at, what's remaining, why they're doing something. And that is because this screen is identical to the student's portal. If they ever want to know why in the heck I have to do a rectangular course, that's because it's in these areas here. And if they click on it, they will be taken directly to that area and they can read upon it themselves. Okay. There it is, 61107, and they can read on it themselves there. Okay, and that's the activities. So you got resources. Chris, how are we on time here?
We are 20 till, so we probably have about maybe 5 to 10 minutes. We'll make sure we leave some time for questions just in case.
All right. Resources. So resources are non-assignable items. So this is not any prep. This isn't anything, kind of ground content that's going to go with an activity. It can be, but it won't be assigned. This is a library, consider this. So this is where anybody, instructor, student, or an owner can go here and just look at things. Operating procedures, maybe you put your airport diagram in here. Whatever it is, it's never going to be assigned, but it's just a place for students to come and check things, and a school can add their own. If they add anything here, it is strictly for that school and that school only. And so anybody in that school will see it. No one within the whole AFTA system will see it. So, that's good. You can also see if there's system resources, and system resources are AOPA added. I won't say based because it could be anything. There's some FAA stuff in here. And you can see this if you signed in right now to your school. If you had one in AFTA, you would see all of these things. School information, this is where the owner goes to add or change anything they'd like. And this is stuff that's only seen within their system at this point. So I could change the contact, I could change this, and that way I could put my own private cell phone number in here. And that way when a student signs into their portal, they'll see that, nobody else will see it. And they could say, oh, I need to contact, and this is the private number.
Don't forget that you can brand this too. So if you would go back up just a little, there you go. You can put in your own logo, which is really nice for your students to be seeing your brand on this when they're using it in their lessons or doing their homework prep.
And if there's a logo added, it'll be displayed here. If not, we'll have our wonderful wings and the block letters here instead. So staff portal users, that's strictly exactly what it is. You can add any user you'd like. Maybe you've got a front office person. Maybe you've got CFIs who want to access this. There it is. You can add simulators if you have one. And that simulator link, or the label I showed you that shows up on activities, will not appear unless you've added a simulator, a functional simulator. So be cautious of that. And you can add your own links here for these wonderful social medias. Announcements is a way to add an announcement. You can add as many as you'd like. You can schedule them, show them for as long as you want, and they go away and appear whenever you've scheduled them. And when they appear, they will appear in a red bar at the top of portals. So both your owner portal and student portal. It'll appear on the iPad in a blue header at the top of the iPad. So we didn't make it as, in your face on the iPad. We were, lesser space over there, but those will appear there, and you can add anything there, as many as you'd like as well. So you could have 2 or 3 up there, and they'll appear in those portals. The scheduler, this will only appear, so you will not see it until you add here in your school information. This has to be filled in. If it says none, this will not appear here. It'll go right from announcements to customization. So fret not, that is the only reason it is not there. Customizations. So this is really easy. This is badges. And so you have the honor of creating your own badges based on these AOPA supplied badges. You can name them anything you like. You select one, you give it a name, boom, it shows up. In this case, we have 2. Again, these are just ones I created. For your basic communicator that talks too much in the cockpit, there it is, the windsock. The system does assign several badges as well. There are 12 of those. However, there are many more because we give them at 10-hour intervals. So there are badges for 10 hours through 80 hours, but there's 12 others. So I didn't want to count those 8 as well. However, so there they are. And those are assigned based on certain milestones within the system. Everyone gets a discovery one after they've flown their first flight. These custom fields are just for that. So they're custom. Create as many as you'd like, free-form. They will appear on the students portal, and then they can fill it in. So for example, for that wonderful solo flight that they do when we tear up their clothes, we could have a field here that says, just like this example says, shirt size, boom. It is now going to be in our portals, in the student portals. Then you can tell them, fill that in, please, so that we can give you a replacement shirt when we tear yours up. And it'll always be there. There you go. Boy, oh boy, never done that in 45 minutes. That's a record. So,
Cool, Pablo.
so
Thank
there's
you.
the owner's portal and the iPad.
All right, so I
So-
guess yeah, we'll take an opportunity here. If anybody has any questions as well, we'd be glad to answer them. Or and I know that does more. There's a student portal that is sort of similar to what's in the owner portal. It doesn't obviously have all the other stuff, and then of course the CFI portal. We skipped over some stuff just to give you the general rundown of how it works.
Yep.
Michael's got his hand up. Michael, do you want to unmute so we can hear you?
Hey, my name is Mike Cook, and I'm not associated with a flight school. I'm with Civil Air Patrol, the Cadet Wings program, and we put students in flight schools. And I really appreciate that AOPA asked me to be part of this in the very beginning. I've learned a tremendous amount about how flight schools operate, about the initiative, the innovation, the COVID procedure, and the professionalism shown by all. My issue right now is that in the past several weeks, we've had difficulty in getting students enrolled in the smaller local flight schools because they're full. And my question for everyone is this an anomaly that will go away soon, or is this something that I can expect to be for the foreseeable future?
Anyone want to take that on among our flight schools? Chris, maybe you have some thoughts on that because
Yeah,
you've been
it's
talking to a lot of folks.
I do know, and I'll just, and I'm pleased. I'd love to have anybody that's one of our owners out there to jump in as well. But I know that I have been talking to some schools. For example, I have recently had to do a little bit of research, and it was out in the California area, and we had one school that had a 6 month, or actually I shouldn't say 6 month. It was a couple of week, maybe a month, 2 month waiting period for new students. But then I just started calling some of the local schools around them, and we're able to find some that were available. So my guess would be it's more of an issue of it's just demand right now that's pent up, and then I'm sure that it will even out. I doubt that it's going to be something that will last. I would guess that because typically we go through so many cycles in aviation where we go through this part of it's everybody's super busy and then it slows down a little bit. And so then as these people that are coming in right now eventually become instructors, then we'll have more capacity. So my guess, Mike, would be that is not going to be an ongoing problem, but it'll just be a short-term thing for right now. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm hoping anybody else, any of our other owners, please give us your experience as well.
Well,
So
this is Phil Cook in
also,
Michigan, and
Phil.
I was going to say that, so I own a flight school up here, and I'm seeing unprecedented demand for flight training. And it's rare the day doesn't go by that I don't sign up another 2 or 3 students. And obviously quickly filling up, and I actually had to go out and buy another airplane. So we're just, and I'm bracing for the summer. This is actually just something I do on the side a little bit. I have a group of instructors that help me, but I'm bringing on more instructors, bringing another airplane. I've just never seen this kind of demand. We've not seen the kind of training that we have. We've set records through the beginning of this year for all the training that we've got going on, and the demand is growing. So I don't see a slowdown on any of this at all. In fact, I'm anticipating a large ramp up and longer delays for people to get into the training. So unfortunately.
Great, thank you, Phil. And does anybody else, you maybe throw it in the chat, or if you wanted to add in just to share your experience, do you feel in the same thing that Phil is, that is everybody getting super busy? And we'll check on the chat. Just feel free to throw that in the chat as well.
So we do have another question while people are maybe writing their notes in the chat. Archie wants to know, will there be an AOPA webpage available soon to show the demonstration of this program?
Next
Why?
slide, please.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. Let me share
Phil,
my screen.
It sounds to me like you need some kind of application that'll help you keep all those records in line.
But wait, there's more.
What can I do to get you into an AFTA? It's a brand new 2021.
So if you see on the screen here, we've got I've got some of the basic information there, but hold on, it's under the Q&A. So we did want to mention it's part 61 only. It's private sport rec airplane single engine land currently. We do have plans to do instrument next, and we are working. Have plans to also seek 141 approval. It is Apple iPad or iPad Mini only right now. Actually, that's the plan. Is just iPad Mini only. Will not work on a phone. Will not work on any non-Apple product. And there's the pricing: free for schools and CFIs, 3-month free trial.
Hang on, Chris. I think that maybe is a little confusing. The app, the part that the instructors
I'm
use,
sorry.
is Apple iPad or iPad Mini only.
Right.
As an owner, you can look at it on your phone, on your desktop, on your laptop, on your iPad, and students also can look at it at their piece on any device.
Yes, that is true. I guess what we meant is that for the instructors to be able to use it, you have to have the Apple iPad. But to get to the other question that we had, where do we go to get more? Visit aopa.org/AFTA. And then there's also the one that's below that pic.aopa. And I'll tell you what we can do is we can throw those into the chat, those links.
I would also tell you that we're doing a lot of demos, so we're scheduling those pretty regularly. So if you would like an individualized demo where you can get more information for your school, let us know, and we will let you know when we're going to be able to do some more of those. But Pablo is regularly doing demonstrations, so.
Great. All right.
And
any
I'm
other
dying to
questions?
do another one.
Yes. So I will leave that up there. And also, you can email us as well, just at afta@aopa.org. That's where we get when folks have questions or whatever. That's kind of where we funnel everything, so we know exactly when we have our team answer it. So feel free to do that. All right.
Phil, you had your hand up.
Yeah. I just had a question on this, and I guess it's really from the perspective of marketing it to students, because students, of course, they're leery of spending more money than they have to, and trying to figure out, what's, do you have a real good marketing program of this towards students? I mean, obviously we've got flight schools here and flight school owners here, but I can't force my students to buy this, and that's seemingly like a significant add-on to not only have, pay for this and then also pay for the AOPA membership for something that they're going to use. And so what do they really benefit out of it? I mean, we use My Flight Book, and My Flight Book does a fantastic job of tracking requirements towards your rating. So it does graphical display of % complete and keeps track, as well as because it pulls it all off the person's logbook. So how much more, like when we tout this program, how much more can the students, what true value do they see as part of this? And I get it, there's the course tracking, a little bit more homework, it's a little bit more guided, but is there a lot more materials that are available and marketing materials towards a student to help them justify in their mind, spending extra money on this? And then my other concern around that is that I'm going to have a part of the students will want to use it and part of the students won't. And so now I've got inconsistent usage. And so the instructors are going to be limited and have to go back and forth. Are you a user of this program or are you not? And I grade you one way or I track your progress another.
I think we can address some of that for you, Phil. Okay. So in terms of the value to the student, to put it in the simplest terms, if they save even 1 hour of training time, which they will, based on all of our tracking and simulations and everything that we did to get to this point, if they save even 1 hour, then they have more than paid for the cost of this for their entire training program. So in those terms, it's a time and money saver. In terms of how the cost is borne, one of the things that we're putting in place is bulk licensing for flight schools. So if someone decides it's something they want their entire student body to use, but they don't want to have the students pay for it directly, or they don't want to add one more thing, then they can do it as a bulk license on behalf of their students. So that can take it off of the student's plate. Another thing is that if something that we've learned through this process is that what happens in most cases, and I don't know if your school is different, but in most cases when students are starting flight training, they kind of get a pile of things that they're told they're going to need, right? So it might be a flight bag and a headset and some books and some other things. This replaces not the flight bag or the headset, but it can replace a lot of the books. It can also be something that is simply done at the same time. And in that case, most students are comfortable with that because they've been, they understand that their flight school is telling them these are the items you need to be successful at your training. But if you're using this system where all the homework and all the assignments are already built in, the student doesn't actually need another book with all that information because they have access to it through the app and the web portal. So, it's a business decision for schools in terms of how they want to handle it and if they want to if they want to do it as a licensing situation or if they want to have the students pay for it in a more direct way. Either one works. But keep in mind too that the students are getting this 3 months free. So depending on how committed they are to their training and what their training schedule looks like, they could be well along the way and only paying for a couple of months. Anybody else have anything to add or more questions there, Phil? Oh, I think you're muted.
Phil.
Yep, sorry. I guess just from the perspective of, because we already do this, like I said, we use electronic logbooks for everything, say my flight book, and we greatly detail our lessons that are provided in our ground training. And so we're already doing a fair amount of that. I see, definitely there's some value here. I'm just worried about what it's going to take because I see this as being a bit more administrative overhead. I've got some double entry because now not only am I filling out the logbook with all the flight times and everything, I don't have that integration that's sucking it back into this. So I've got to repeat what I'm putting in their logbooks. I have to repeat and put it within this app. So I'm increasing administrative overhead, which is actually adding time because that's not going to be done for free. So, it's just part of a ground lesson as you're reviewing with the client. So with the students. So I'm just kind of concerned, because I've streamlined our operations, at least at my school, making everything digital and everything online and still trackable that way. I'm just still kind of concerned from that perspective of how to actually sell it to the students and what their true value that they're getting from this with. So
keep in mind too that the people who are using this and have tested it for us have found it, especially on the CFI side, to be a real time saver because all the notes are happening in real time. A lot of it's getting done in the air, and they're not spending so much time lesson planning or trying to figure out where a student is for each next lesson. Let's say they haven't seen someone for a couple of weeks. They don't have to go back and go through the student records and figure it out. It's already there. And then the other thing I would just point out related to that is that it's a lot more than a tracking system. The tracking system is nice, but what it really does is provide an orderly, consistent way to keep the students moving forward that aligns with what we know about adult learning so that students don't get discouraged and drop out and so forth. So it's actually, based on what we know so far and all the testing that we've done, it's actually going to save them time and money, and it's also going to save your instructors time. But it's the kind of thing that's worth trying out if you're interested, so that you can actually see how it would work in your school. Every school is different, we know that. That's why we built a lot of flexibility into the system. So if you're interested in playing with it or learning more, or let us know, and Pablo and Chris can give you all the great gory details.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I know that we are coming to the end of our time. So please, I know we've got the email up on the screen there. That's our AFTA one, so you can just hit us up with anything there. I did want to mention again, so we do have Kelly Davis, I know, is on the call right now. She's one of our research people at AOPA. And so we just wanted to say, if anyone, I know you guys are busy, so we totally understand, but if anyone is able to stick around, because Kelly was just interested in asking some questions, more like a focus group thing, we would love to have you, but no obligation there at all. And if you're interested in doing that, but just don't have the time right now, we'd be glad to set up another time to speak with you as well. So Kelly, can you give them an idea of how long the questions that you have might take?
Yeah, I think this discussion group will take, we can do it in 30 minutes. and maybe even shorter, if we get through it quickly. It's only a couple of questions. We're just looking to ask you about your new students and how AOPA can better engage them.
Okay, so that said, like I said, no obligation there, but if you're able to stick around, we'd love to have you. If not, maybe if you're interested, just put it in the chat, or you could even email us at the AFTA and we can forward that over to you, and we'll get that over to Kelly as needed. So, all right, thank you everybody for being here. We really appreciate it. We will hang on the line here with Kelly for those that want to stick around, but otherwise, we want to thank you again for being on the connector. Next month, we are opening in just a couple of weeks for those that have done it, and maybe for those that haven't, we're going to be doing AOPA's Flight Training Experience Survey. We're bringing it back, and we had to take a break last year with everything that happened with COVID, but it is back, our 2021 Flight Training Experience Survey, and so we are going to do just an introduction to that, talk a little bit about it, some of the advantages, answer questions that you might have, give you tips on how you could help your school do well and get feedback. So if you're interested in that, check it out. It does open for those that have done it before and already know. It opens on May 15th, and you can just go to aopa.org/FTE survey. I think it is now, Stephen. Did we change that? Or actually, just Google the thing. We will get links out. There'll be emails coming out. I know it was aopa.org/FT survey, but anyway, that's coming up next month. So please join us then, and we'll look forward to seeing you there.
It's an FT survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Kelly, let's see if we've got folks that we've got a few folks sticking around. So let's see if you want to take over, I'll let you have the floor.
Okay.
Or the screen, whatever it might be.
And this is a discussion group, and we've been doing these, without a bunch of slides or anything else. I definitely want to have just an open discussion about this. As I was saying, AOPA is looking to better engage new pilots, and we're looking at how to better engage young pilots in particular. But just from interviews that I've been doing around the country with new pilots, the average age of the new pilots is well over 30. I've talked to people as old as 72 who have decided during COVID that they're finally going to check off that box on their bucket list and start flying. So what I want to ask you, and please feel free to just speak up. If we don't need to do this in the chat, really. Why do you think demand is so high right now? Is there